Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most powerful texts ever written, the Bhagavad Gita, specifically Chapter 2. This is where it all goes down, a hero's crisis of conscience right on a battlefield that spirals into one of the most influential philosophical conversations in, well, all of human history.
All right, so let's set the scene. You've got this colossal battle about to kick off, and there's our hero, the great warrior Arjuna. We're talking a man of legendary skill and honor. But when he looks across the battlefield, what does he see? Not just faceless enemies. He sees his own family, his cousins, his teachers, his grandfathers, all staring back at him. And just like that, his resolve completely shatters.
So this is Arjuna's big moment of crisis. And I want to be clear, this isn't just a little hesitation. Nope, this is a full-blown existential breakdown. His heart is so completely overwhelmed with pity that his legendary bow literally drops from his hands. He's ready to abandon everything he stands for, his most sacred duty as a warrior.
And you can just hear the desperation in his voice. He argues that any victory would be totally meaningless. He says the kingdom he might win would be forever stained, tainted with the blood of the very men he respects the most. For him, that's a price way, way too high to pay.
So completely lost and bewildered, Arjuna turns to his charioteer, Krishna. But here's the thing. He's not just talking to a friend anymore. In this single moment, he formally surrenders. He accepts Krishna as his spiritual master, his guru. And this one act of humility, well, it changes everything. It sets the stage for the profound wisdom that's about to be revealed.
Okay, so this brings us to Krishna's response. And if you're expecting a gentle, comforting word, maybe a pat on the back, you're in for a surprise, because that is not what Arjuna gets. Krishna's first words are like a splash of ice-cold water. They're sharp, they're direct, and they are designed to shock Arjuna right out of his paralysis.
Right away, Krishna just lays into him. He rebukes Arjuna, calling his grief an illusion, a weakness that is totally inappropriate for an honorable man, for a warrior. He basically tells him this path will only lead to disgrace, not to heaven or to honor.
So Krishna starts with a really practical argument. He reframes the whole situation. He says, look, that army over there, they're not your cherished family right now. They're aggressors who have unjustly stolen a kingdom. And according to the law of the land, these men must be confronted. Duty, Krishna argues, has to come first.
All right, now that Krishna has Arjuna's full attention, he makes a massive pivot. He moves beyond the immediate problem of duty and goes way, way deeper. He starts to reveal the core of his teaching, the eternal, unchanging nature of the soul itself.
And this is where things get really profound. Krishna completely reframes reality for Arjuna. He says, listen, there was never a time when you or me or any of these warriors on this field did not exist. And guess what? There will never be a time when any of us cease to exist. You see, this isn't about one lifetime. This is about eternity. It's a radical redefinition of what life and death even mean.
And this is where he introduces the concept of the ātmā, the soul. Now think of it this way. The body, the mind, all of it. It's like a temporary costume. The ātmā is the real you, the eternal actor who's wearing that costume. It's the very core of your being, and as we're about to see, it is absolutely 100% indestructible.
And this next idea really illustrates it perfectly. Death, from this perspective, isn't some terrifying final end. No, it's just a transition. It's as simple as taking off an old set of clothes and putting on a new one. The soul, the ātmā, just discards a worn-out body and moves on to the next. Simple as that.
And Krishna doesn't stop there. He explains that the soul is fundamentally beyond the reach of any physical harm. You can't cut it with the sword, you can't burn it with fire, you can't destroy it, period. So all of Arjuna's grief for the destruction of these physical bodies, it's completely misplaced, because the real person, the soul inside that body, is eternal.
Okay, so if the soul is eternal, what does that mean for how we're supposed to act, right? If nothing can truly be destroyed, what's the point of anything we do? This brings us to a really revolutionary idea: duty without attachment.
And here is the absolute crucial point. Krishna tells Arjuna, you must fight. It is your righteous duty. But, and this is the game changer, you have to let go of any attachment to the outcome. He shouldn't be motivated by the glory of victory or paralyzed by the fear of defeat. He must simply act. Perform the duty for duty's sake. And this is what Krishna defines as true yoga. Now, we're not talking about yoga pants and postures here. He means a state of mind. It's the ability to stay balanced, to stay even-keeled in the face of all of life's ups and downs, pleasure and pain, success and failure. That kind of mental balance, that's what he calls true skill in action.
Krishna then gives this really stark warning, which you can almost think of as a ladder of destruction. He shows how it all starts so simply. You just think about some object, and that leads to attachment. That attachment then blossoms into desire. And when that desire isn't fulfilled, bam, you get anger. Anger leads to delusion, and delusion completely wrecks your intelligence, which causes your total downfall. It's a clear and, frankly, a pretty scary progression.
So, after hearing all of this profound philosophy, Arjuna, who's still trying to get his head around it all, asks a very simple, very practical question. He basically says, okay, Krishna, what is a person who has actually achieved this state of wisdom? What do they even look like?
Yeah. How do they talk? How do they sit? How do they walk around in the world? In other words, how can the rest of us recognize someone who's actually achieved this incredible state of inner peace and mental control? What are the signs?
So Krishna responds with this brilliant metaphor. He says, the wise person has such complete mastery over their senses that they can just withdraw them from all the distractions of the world whenever they want, just like a tortoise pulls its head and limbs safely into its shell.
You see, a sage isn't swayed by the constant flow of desires. Krishna uses another beautiful image for this. He says that just as the great, vast ocean remains calm and undisturbed, even as countless rivers are constantly pouring into it, the wise person remains steady and tranquil, totally unaffected by the desires that happen to enter their mind.
So when you boil it all down, the profile of a sage is someone with this profound inner stability. They're free from all the mental chaos that plagues most of us. They're not tossed around by distress or craving or fear or anger. Why? Because they've shed that false ego, that voice that tells us, I am this body. And they've realized their true eternal nature.
And this is the ultimate goal. Achieving this state of wisdom isn't just about, having a more peaceful life. It's the key to ultimate liberation. At the moment of death, Krishna explains, a person like this attains Brahma Nirvanam. And what is that? It's the state of pure consciousness, a spiritual home where the endless cycle of birth, death, and suffering finally comes to an end.
And so all of this leaves us with a question for ourselves. Krishna's advice was for a warrior on a very literal battlefield thousands of years ago, but the battlefield has changed, hasn't it? Today, our battles are fought in our careers, in our relationships, and most of all, in our own minds. But the core challenge, it's exactly the same. How do we act with purpose, without being crippled by our attachment to the outcome? So the question isn't just for Arjuna, it's for every single one of us. What attachments in your life are getting in the way of finding your own peace?